What if episode 8 secretly revealed the beginning of the most dangerous rebellion Gilead has ever faced? Not with guns, not with violence, but with intelligence, strategy, and one brilliant girl learning how to manipulate Gilead's own rules against itself. And after rewatching episode 8 several times, paying attention to the body language, the dialogue, the silences, I genuinely think episode 9, the penultimate episode of season 1, is going to be a massive turning point. Because Daisy is changing, she's evolving, and honestly, Daisy is genial. Stay until the end because I truly think the show has been quietly setting up one of the smartest moves we've ever seen in the entire Handmaid's Tale universe. Before getting into the predictions, let's quickly contextualize episode 8. Agnes becomes engaged to Commander Seth Weston. He is portrayed by actor Reed Diamond. In the series, Seth Weston is a partial adaptation of Commander Judd from the Testaments, but the character has been divided into two separate roles. Weston specifically serves as the leader of the Eyes, Gilead's secret police force, one of the most feared and powerful men in Gilead, while Garth is matched with Becka instead. A devastating emotional blow because Agnes clearly loves Garth. At the same time, Daisy gets her period, officially making her eligible for marriage inside Gilead, and we can literally see the panic in her face. That moment mattered, because Daisy understands what marriage means in Gilead: ownership, submission, loss of autonomy. Women are not treated as human beings in Gilead. They are treated as objects, property, reproductive vessels without voice, without agency, without freedom. Reading is forbidden because ignorance creates dependency. The less educated women are, the easier they are to control. We all remember Serena Joy in The Handmaid's Tale having a finger cut off simply for reading the Bible. That scene defined the ideology of Gilead perfectly. Educated women are dangerous. And episode 8 reinforced this constantly. We even saw Paula excitedly showing the engagement invitation for Garth and Becca, proudly describing the message, which was probably written using symbols and drawings because even reading something simple could create problems for girls in Gilead. Everything is infantilized. Everything is controlled. Then came the devastating Hulda storyline. Hulda, brilliantly portrayed by Isolde Artis, has always been portrayed as cheerful, innocent, socially unfiltered, almost childlike in the way she processes the world. Sometimes her behavior even suggests someone neurodivergent, honest, literal, emotionally transparent. Remember how excited she became when she learned their married friend was pregnant, only for Daisy to explain that early contractions could mean losing the baby? Hulda doesn't fully understand the dangers around her because Gilead intentionally keeps girls emotionally and intellectually unprepared. And then suddenly in episode 8, we see a completely transformed Hulda. Sad, broken, closed off. She tells Agnes what happened with Dr. Grove during her teeth whitening appointment. We know exactly what happened. This character absolutely deserves punishment. Agnes immediately understands because the same thing happened to her. She convinces Hulda to report it to the aunts, and they go to Aunt Vidala's office. But Aunt Vidala completely dismisses Hulda's story, implying confusion, misunderstanding, hysteria. Agnes still cannot bring herself to admit it happened to her too. Why? Because in Gilead, victims become impure, damaged, unworthy of marriage outside the market. What a terrifying world. Women suffer abuse, but speaking about it destroys their value instead of the man's. Then comes one of the most powerful scenes of the season: Agnes speaking with Aunt Lydia during Garth and Becca's engagement celebration. Anne Dowd is absolutely extraordinary in this scene. Agnes tells Lydia without truly telling her, because women in Gilead are not even allowed direct language for trauma. The submission of women is so deeply embedded that even describing abuse becomes impossible. And Aunt Lydia understands immediately. She quotes scripture and implies the matter will eventually be dealt with, because these girls were victims of Dr. Grove, but speaking openly would make them unfit for marriage. Imagine how horrifying that is, how quickly rights disappear, how quickly decades of female progress can vanish. But this is where my entire theory for episode 9 begins. When Agnes tells Daisy what happened with Dr. Grove, Daisy reacts differently from everyone raised in Gilead. She hugs Agnes. She comforts her. She tells her it was not her fault. And it was right there, during that embrace, that I noticed Daisy's body language completely change. A subtle expression, a look of calculation, and suddenly I remembered an earlier episode where one aunt told Daisy something fascinating. "You could say I was the first Pearl girl." That line deeply intrigued Daisy. You could literally see her thinking, processing, realizing something huge. A Pearl girl can become an aunt. That changes everything. From that moment, Daisy's mind started working strategically. Because if becoming an aunt is possible, then there is a path inside Gilead that gives women more autonomy, more protection, more freedom from male ownership. And suddenly, Daisy no longer sees herself trapped only between marriage or death. There is another option, and now we return to the embrace between Agnes and Daisy at the engagement party, because I think Daisy is developing a genius plan, a plan to punish Dr. Grove, avenge Agnes and Hulda, expose Gilead's hypocrisy, and remove herself from the marriage market permanently. And honestly, it's brilliant. I think Daisy is beginning to resemble a young June Osborne, not just emotionally, but strategically. She is learning to manipulate the system from within. Here's my prediction. I think episode 9 will recreate elements directly inspired by the book version of the Testaments. Fans of the novel already know this line very well. This was in the book. They staged it and caught the dentist red-handed. And I think the show has been quietly building toward exactly that scenario. There are multiple ways Daisy could achieve this, but one possibility feels especially likely. I believe Daisy may intentionally ring the menstruation bell at school, and we all know what that means inside Gilead. The moment she publicly becomes a woman, her status changes immediately. She transitions from Pearl Girl into Purple, and consequently into Green, becoming eligible for marriage and reproductive evaluation. Then she goes for a dental treatment with Dr. Grove as preparation for her future status. And that is where Daisy's trap begins. Unlike the girls raised in Gilead, Daisy does not fear becoming unmarriageable. In fact, that is exactly what she wants. She understands that exposing Dr. Grove could remove her permanently from the marriage market while simultaneously destroying him. She wants autonomy, she wants survival, and becoming an aunt may be the safest route available to her inside Gilead. So Daisy allows herself to be placed in that vulnerable position with Dr. Grove, and then catches him in the act, publicly, loudly, irrefutably. She makes a scene, she forces witnesses, and because Daisy was raised outside Gilead, she does not carry the same psychological shame conditioning as Agnes or Hulda. She isn't afraid to speak. She isn't afraid of losing value. She already rejects the entire system. And by doing this, she accomplishes 4 things at once. She punishes Dr. Grove, avenges Agnes and Hulda, protects future girls from abuse, and removes herself from forced marriage expectations. Daisy is genial. What makes this theory even more interesting is how closely it aligns with fan analysis online. One fan wrote, "Daisy is taking on book Aunt Vidala's role for this, I hope, and I am so here for it. She's going to ring the menstruation bell, go to Dr. Grove for her teeth whitening, and make a big scene of him molesting her, thereby sealing his execution." And honestly, that feels very possible. But there's another layer that could make the situation emotionally devastating. Another fan pointed out something fascinating. This also might help explain Agnes' negative feelings toward Daisy's protectiveness during the last episode. Never trust a Pearl Girl. Dr. Grove is Becca's dad, and if he's executed, Becca may turn against all of them. And this could become one of episode 9's biggest emotional conflicts, because Becca is already emotionally fragile. She is already showing signs of inner conflict. If her father is exposed and executed, she may redirect her grief and rage toward Daisy or even Agnes. That would create a heartbreaking fracture between the girls exactly when unity is becoming most important. And this is why I think episode 9 will be the true turning point of season 1. Not because of action, not because of violence, but because the girls are beginning to awaken. Aunt Lydia is questioning more and more. And Daisy is evolving into something Gilead never anticipated. A girl intelligent enough to use the system against itself. Just like June did. Quietly, strategically, patiently. And that is what makes her terrifying to Gilead. Because authoritarian systems understand violence, but they do not understand intelligent women who stop being afraid. But now I really want to hear your theories. Do you think Daisy is genuinely planning to trap Dr. Grove? Do you believe she's already thinking strategically about becoming an aunt to escape marriage and gain power inside Gilead? And what happens if Dr. Grove is exposed? Could Becca completely turn against Agnes and Daisy after losing her father? I genuinely think episode 9 is going to emotionally destroy us while also becoming the true beginning of rebellion from within. So tell me everything in the comments, your theories, your predictions, your craziest ideas, because I'll be reading all of them. And if you enjoyed this deep dive, don't forget to like, subscribe, and join this amazing community of fans because the final episodes of the Testaments are about to get absolutely insane. Subscribe to the Timeless Tales podcast. Your stories, your time.